Hi! So many of you tried interstitial journaling after watching my video about it and said that it changed your lives, which honestly means a lot to me. That's amazing. But I also keep getting questions about it, and today I decided to answer as many of them as possible. And I'm going to start with the most frequently asked questions because I know that a lot of us don't really have the best attention spans in the world, and I want the important stuff to reach you before your mind wanders and you click away. Actually, real quick, if you haven't seen the original video, this is a quick explanation of the method because otherwise none of this will make sense. So the way it works is very simple. You write the time, you write what you just did, and you write a tiny next step. And you do that throughout the day whenever you remember in between tasks. That's how it works, and it's incredibly useful. Okay, now let's get into the questions. By the way, I have my laptop here and I'm going to be reading the questions from it, so that's why I'll be looking this way sometimes. Okay, let's start with the first question. How do you get back to it when it stops working after 2 weeks or when you get bored? So this is a perfect question because honestly, I get bored of things all the time. Like I'll find a new method and I will think, this is amazing, this is finally going to fix my life. And then 2 weeks later, or even sometimes 2 days later, the novelty wears off and I don't want to do it anymore. And I think a lot of people with ADHD can relate to that. So if that happens with interstitial journaling, my advice is actually very simple. Put it aside. You don't need to force yourself to keep using a method that you are completely bored of. One of the reasons I talk about so many different methods and systems on this channel is because this isn't the only thing that I do. I rotate between different tools depending on what my brain needs at the time. Sometimes I use interstitial journaling and sometimes I use my stress-free to-do list system. I have a video on that. Sometimes I cover my desk in sticky notes, or I do a giant brain dump, or sometimes I use something else entirely. I don't expect one method to work forever because I've learned that I need some amount of change. If everything stays exactly the same for too long, then my brain starts resisting it. But the nice thing about interstitial journaling is that it is surprisingly resilient. Even when I stop using it for a while, I never really fully abandon it. It's one of those tools that stay in the back of my mind because I know how helpful it is. And whenever I'm struggling, I almost always come back to it. So don't think of this as a habit that you have to maintain perfectly forever. Use it when it helps, put it down when it doesn't, pick it back up when you need it again, and you don't even need to do it all day. Most of the time, I use it for a couple of hours when I'm working on something important. Other days, I won't use it at all, and that's completely fine. Next question. I forget for days and then feel too guilty to come back. How do I break that cycle? This is probably the question that I get the most in different forms, and I want to answer it properly. First of all, I also forget, like hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. But interstitial journaling is a tool and it's there when you need it. Like when you forget about it for 3 days and then you remember that it exists, you don't need to catch up. You don't need to write about what you did yesterday. You just write the time. You write what you're doing right now and continue. You can think of it like meditation. Like in meditation, the practice isn't staying focused the whole time. The practice is noticing that you drifted and coming back. And it's the same here. The method isn't about writing every single moment of every single day. I always think of it this way. I don't care that I wasn't writing before. I'm writing now, and that's enough. This moment is saved. And this method trains your brain over time to care about now instead of feeling crushed by everything you didn't do before now. It's almost like mindfulness on paper. All right, next one. I get so stressed wanting to fill in every gap and have a perfect record. Any tips? So this is also related to the last one, but a bit different, so I want to answer it separately. So this method is supposed to be the most flexible, low-pressure thing, right? Like there are almost no rules. But I know that for some people, especially people with like perfectionism tendencies or obsessive tendencies, a blank page with gaps triggers something. Like the gaps start feeling like failure, right? First of all, I don't leave gaps between the times that I skipped. I just write it below the previous entry, so I don't really see any gaps. So maybe don't use dated journals, like where you might see the skipped days. Just use empty notebooks and make the gaps not visible to yourself. But if you still feel bad about skipping hours or days and perfectionism around this method is strong, then this specific method might not be the right fit for you right now, which is completely okay. Not every method works for everyone. I talk about a lot of different methods on this channel exactly for this reason. You should be finding what fits your brain, and you shouldn't force yourself into something that gives you more stress than it relieves. So maybe explore other things and you can come back when this method feels less stressful. Okay, the next question is, doesn't it take too much time to write your whole day? I keep getting this one from, I think, people who haven't tried it yet. And my honest answer is, please try it and see for yourself. Most days, my entire journal... Wait, where's my notebook? Okay, I brought my current notebook that I'm using, and most days, my entire day of journaling fits on one B5 page, front and back, okay? And individual entries take me about 30 seconds. Like, it's not an essay. I'm not writing big chunks of text most of the time. It's just a couple of lines, right? Also, I don't write my whole day. I write in between tasks. Sometimes a task takes 2 minutes and I come back and write again. Okay. But sometimes a task might take me 3 hours and I don't write for hours. It just depends on the day. Okay. But writing little entries of what I just did doesn't take me much time at all. But here's what I want to say to the people who are asking this. When you're stuck in task paralysis, when you've been sitting there for hours and hours, unable to start anything, feeling worse and worse, that is the time that you're actually losing. Not the 30 seconds it takes to write one entry. This method is what gets me out of task paralysis most of the time, like writing the time and then feeling stuck, going to open the text document and look at it. That is what gets me moving again. It shrinks the next step down to something that my brain can actually agree to do. So even if it did take more time, which it doesn't, it would still be worth it to me. But you decide for yourself. If you're someone who doesn't really struggle with day-to-day productivity, or if you have better executive function than I do, then the time trade-off might not be worth it for you. But if you do struggle, if you have executive dysfunction, give it a real try before writing it off. Okay, next question. Does it have to be on paper? Can I do it on my phone or laptop? It does not have to be on paper. Use whatever you will actually use, okay? Whatever is more convenient to you. I personally love paper. I think better on paper. I feel more present on paper. And there's something about physically writing that slows my brain down in a good way. But also, don't let the notebook become its own obstacle. Some people spend so long trying to pick the perfect journal that they never even start. Even a piece of scrap paper works, okay? Anything works. That said, I also spent years doing this method on my laptop, on a text document, just a basic text document, and it worked. I didn't love it so much. I love to do it on paper more, but again, it worked and that's what mattered. And I saw some people on the comments mentioning that they do it on their notes app on their phone, or some people send themselves voice memos throughout the day, or I saw that someone does it on WhatsApp. They have a WhatsApp group with just themselves in it, and which I thought was smart. It has like timestamps built in and it's always in your pocket, and the messages stack up like a log automatically. So yeah, you can do it on your phone. Why not? It doesn't defeat the purpose. For this specific method, the medium honestly isn't the most important part. The check-ins with yourself is the point. So start on whatever is closest to you right now. So next question is, what do you actually write when nothing is happening? What do you mean when nothing is happening? Like, you're not sitting staring at a wall doing nothing. And even if you are, you can write sitting and staring at a wall. That's a valid entry. Or if you really are doing nothing, don't feel like writing, then don't write. Skip those hours. So the entries don't have to be productive or meaningful, okay? I sometimes write like had pasta with a timestamp, and that's it. I've written doing nothing, don't know what to do next. That counts because you're writing reality. It doesn't have to be profound. And sometimes writing doing nothing makes you realize that there might be something that you actually might want to do, and then you write that as your next tiny step, and then you go and do it. Next question is, what if I'm doing more than one thing at the same time? Then you write both of them. You write watch the YouTube video while eating pizza. That's okay, because you're documenting reality. You are not trying to force yourself into single tasking, right? You're not judging what you're doing. You are writing what's true, okay? But what I've noticed is that, it's raining so much. Anyway, what was I saying? It's raining a lot. I was saying that you're just writing reality. Oh, I remember. Okay. I realized that also other people in the comments said this too. You naturally start single tasking without trying over time because you start seeing your own patterns. You see how you're actually spending your time, and you naturally start making different choices. That's just what awareness does. Next question is, what if someone reads it? Okay, I kept seeing this concern, and I totally get it. Personally, I'm not worried about it because I live with my partner and we respect each other's personal stuff completely. So I don't censor myself in my journal. And honestly, there isn't usually anything that's sensitive in there. I'm mostly just writing what I'm doing, which is like opened my laptop and had a shower or something like that. Not exactly scandalous, but when I was living with my parents when I was younger, I threw away journals that had more personal stuff in them. I was always scared that someone would read them, so I understand this feeling completely. So for interstitial journaling specifically, if privacy is a concern, digital is probably the easiest solution. You can password protect your notes and stuff like that. And if you prefer paper and want to keep it private, then a solution would be something like writing on paper and then taking a picture of it and then throwing away that paper and digitally saving that picture and password protecting it. I don't know. Not ideal, but I guess it works. If anyone in the comments has a better solution, that would be great if you can share it, because I think a lot of people would benefit from that. Okay, next question is, how long should each entry be? There are no rules. It's completely up to you. Depends on the moment and on you. But my first entry of the day is mostly something like a morning pages entry. So I write the time and I write everything that is in my mind, like all the stuff that I want to do, all the stuff that is bothering me, everything in my head. I write it down, which is sometimes a whole page of thoughts. This is technically not interstitial journaling, but I don't care. But then after that, throughout the day, most of my entries are either one sentence or two sentences. Sometimes just one word with a timestamp if that's all there is to say. Sometimes a bit longer if I'm processing something. So flexibility is the core idea. There's no doing it right. So write as much or as little as you want and let it change day to day. Next question is, do you date and timestamp every entry? Yes, I timestamp every entry. That's kind of the whole point of interstitial journaling, and that is what helps with time blindness that comes with ADHD actually. But I sometimes group together some of my entries. Like if I write 10:15 opened project folder, let's say, because maybe I needed that tiny step to get myself out of task paralysis. Like I needed to write even maybe opened the laptop, and then 2 minutes later I'm writing the next thing, then I don't give it a separate timestamp because they're too close together. I just write it next to the previous entry because they're close enough to belong together. Next question is, what if you miss several hours? Do you try to catch up or just skip? Skip. Don't try to catch up. Just focus on now. Or if you really want to write something about the time you missed, then you can do one very general entry like lunch, took a walk, took a shower, like together in one entry. If you really don't want to skip anything that you did, all in one timestamp. But honestly, even that isn't necessary because that could easily turn into perfectionism again, like trying to write about every moment and everything that you did throughout the day and trying to create a perfect data of your day. That is not the point of this method, okay? The hours you didn't write are just the hours you didn't write. They don't need to be accounted for. This isn't time tracking for work. This is just checking in with yourself and writing throughout the day. Next question is, how does this work with regular journaling, morning pages, evening reflections? I still do separate journaling sometimes, like actual deep reflective writing, but much less often than I used to, and it lives in a separate place because interstitial journaling isn't deep. It's not the place where I process big emotions or work through complicated thoughts. It's just documenting the day. But as I said, I do integrate morning pages into my interstitial journal sometimes, and I sometimes add little checklists under a timestamp or break a task into sub-steps below the entry, like it becomes its own little hybrid system. So yes, combine it with whatever else that you do. It plays really well with other things. Try different combinations and see what clicks. A very related question, can you combine it with task lists? Yes, absolutely, do it. Sometimes at the top of the page, I'll write a little list of the things that I want to do that day, and then I do the interstitial journaling below it. Or as I said, I'll write a little checklist below a specific entry. I'm actually working on a printable that combines all of the systems and methods that I talk about on this channel. That might be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. Next question is, does it actually change your behavior or does it just document it? So both. Kind of. So you go in with no intention of changing your behavior whatsoever. You are just documenting reality, okay? But the documentation itself changes things because you start realizing what you're actually doing, and that awareness naturally shifts how you act. Like you see things clearly on the page, like how you spend your day, what you spend your time on, what you've been doing, and your brain responds differently to that. But you end up doing productive things more naturally, not because you're forcing yourself, that's not how it works, but because you know you're going to write it down, right? Like there's this very low-key accountability that comes from your own future self reading back what you did. Like nobody else is watching, right? But somehow your own documentation matters to you. Okay, next question is, what if it makes me more anxious seeing how unproductive I am? Ooh. This is a real one, and I want to be honest, I can only speak from my own experience here, so take this with a grain of salt. For me personally, even on the days that I'm not able to do anything, like the most unproductive day ever, this method eases my anxiety instead of adding more to it. It pulls me into the present moment. It shows me that I'm not stuck. I'm here, I'm doing things, even if they are small things. And seeing that on paper really matters. It makes it more real. It's different than hearing it or seeing it inside your mind, right? But I also want to say, if you notice patterns that you don't like, then you can write about it too. In that moment in the journal, like, what am I avoiding right now? Why does this feel so hard? Why am I getting anxious from this? And you don't have to answer those questions in any deep way. Sometimes even just writing that question might be enough to take the edge off the anxiety. And if looking at your own patterns genuinely makes you feel worse rather than better, then maybe this method needs to wait until you are in a more stable place, or maybe you need to approach this method differently. All I can recommend is to just be honest and kind to yourself. Okay, next question is, can I just speak to myself instead of writing? I haven't tried this. I don't know, it might work for some people, but personally, I think I would keep forgetting to do it, because what reminds me to come back and write is the journal, the notebook. It's a physical object that signals to my brain to check in, to write. What will remind you to speak to yourself? Like for me, visual systems and physical objects are what keep me anchored to a method. And without that, I would just drift away from it pretty fast. But if you're someone who processes better out loud, it's worth trying, of course. You could also do voice memos on your phone, which would at least give you some type of record. Next question is, how does it help with bigger projects? Interstitial journaling is not a planning system. There is no planning in this system. It won't help you map out a big project or figure out your strategy or organize your goals or something. If you need to plan something, plan it separately. You might need other methods for that. This method is for navigating your actual day as it's happening. What am I doing right now? What's the next tiny step? And that's the whole scope of it, right? So if you're coming to interstitial journaling hoping that it will solve your project management problems or it will help you plan out stuff, it won't. But it will actually help you sit down and work on the project, which is the part most of us actually struggle with. Next question is, what do you do with everything you write? Do you go back and read it? Honestly, not that much and not often. When you're new to this method, I would highly recommend you to go back and read your entries because the data that you collect about yourself is fascinating, okay? You will start seeing your own patterns. I always crash at 3 p.m. I'm actually really focused after lunch. Every time I skip breakfast, this happens. Every time I don't sleep well, that happens. Every time I work for 4 hours straight, the next day is a complete mess. You can see things clearly on paper that you just can't see from inside your own head. But at this point, I've been doing this on and off for like 10 years and I don't read anything I write anymore. I focus on now and move forward. The value for me isn't in the data itself anymore. It's in the act itself, like the check-ins and the getting unstuck. The notebooks is full of moments that I've already moved through. But I think I should look back more often because we're always changing and there is always some new things to discover about ourselves, especially if you've been diagnosed with something recently or if you're in a different life phase than before. Next, has the way you do it changed since the original video? Yes, my methods always evolve because I get bored. I always try to make them better. I try new ways. I switch it around. I figure out what works better for me over time. I still do it in the same basic way. And then there's also a couple other ways that I do it. And one of them specifically helps me with procrastination a lot. But I don't even know if you can call it interstitial journaling anymore because it's just something that I invented for myself. I want to do a whole separate video on that because I know a lot of people struggle with procrastination. I also do, but this method helps me a lot whenever I am struggling too much. So yeah, if you're interested in a video like that, please let me know. And I will try to do it soon. I just want to move first. I have a lot of plans, but I just need to move first because it's something that I know I'm going to be doing soon. So I'm not really able to focus on anything else much. You know how you sit and wait for an appointment that you have at 1 p.m. and you just can't do anything before that. I'm having the same thing with the moving thing. I know it's going to happen soon, so I'm not able to do much of anything else. Well, at least I'm doing this video. Next question. Is it just for people with ADHD? No. When I started making videos here, I had just been diagnosed with ADHD and I just wanted a place to talk about it and share the things that work for me. And interstitial journaling was one of those things. So I explained it from an ADHD lens, which is my personal experience, right? Because I never saw those two things being explained together like interstitial journaling and ADHD. So I thought that I would do it. This works for anyone who loses track of time, anyone who struggles with transitions, anyone who gets to the end of the day and doesn't know where the day went. That is not exclusively ADHD. That's just being a person. So if you've been wondering if you can do this without having ADHD, yes, you can. Absolutely. Go try it. It will work for you too, I hope. Next question is, if you could give... Is that the last question? Yes, it's the last question. Okay, if you could give one tip to someone just starting out, what would it be? Okay, you know how the original method tells you to write what you just did. So what I can recommend you, if you're gonna just go and start right now, you're gonna take a notebook, you're gonna open it, you're gonna take your pen, write the timestamp. Start by writing what you are currently doing, okay? That is not the original method, I know. Like I'm sitting, I'm watching a video, I'm lying in bed, avoiding things. Whatever is literally true this moment, write that. Because what you just did requires you to be in the rhythm of checking in with yourself throughout the day, but what you are doing right now is always available to you, no matter when you pick the notebook up. It's the lowest entry point, okay? Later on, you can start writing what you just did and the next tiny step. But for starting, I recommend writing what you are currently doing with the timestamp because the first entry is always the hardest. So make it as easy as possible. Okay, these were all the questions for now. If you have any more questions or if I didn't answer your question, I'm so sorry. Please leave them in the comments and I will try and do my best to answer them. If your question needs a longer explanation than I could do in the comment section, then I might do another video like this in the future. Also, let me know in the comments how this method is going for you. Do you like it? What would you change? Or if you don't like it, what's the reason? I'm very curious about it. I genuinely want to hear all of your thoughts on this because as you can see, I'm the #1 interstitial journaling fan in the world. That's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!